Since there is so much of influence of the major parties,
Mm-hmm.
would there be any concern that because oftentimes, there is constant movement of pushing agendas and trying to bring people along to be part of a coalition for a cause? Is there a concern that being one of a few, if not only, not having the party affiliation, and is there a concern that you would end up being, your voice would be lost amongst the masses when you get in to a position where your vote really, because you don't have the party affiliation, your vote might not really count, which then would impact the district's influence on decisions as well?
Well, the impact and the influence, that's, I suppose, something that anyone has to struggle, but how many names of congressmen can you list, or senators can you list? They get platform time when they're allowed to, or invited to, by their party leaders. So sometimes they get airtime when it's going to be appropriate for them. Sometimes it's the sole voice, it's the interesting voice that gets the attention. And sometimes asking questions that nobody else asks is going to make someone cock a head and say, what was that again? I'm going to be asking the questions that other people aren't asking, and hopefully there's going to be value in that. Will I be heard? You know what? It depends, doesn't it, on who's going to pay attention. In the first place, if an independent, a party-free candidate is elected in southern Minnesota, that's going to be a unique thing, and automatically there's a platform there. And don't tell me it's not like Minnesota can't elect a candidate out of the box. We know that that's happened several times before. So I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid of being the lone voice or the voice that brings a topic forward. Maybe, just maybe, I'm going to be the person that people in Congress will come to. They're a little bit timid or a little bit unsure about bringing a topic forward because they know they'll get party pressure. What about an independent to raise this issue? Something that they can sign on with that they don't have to take the blame for.
What political experience do you have as far as serving the public? And I realize that you have obviously experience, with your work in the private sector, but serving a public office where you get elected, you serve a term, and then you have to get reelected again if you want to continue. What experience do you have as far as civic involvement, community involvement, other offices that you've held that would be good for the public to know, and what your experiences were with those?
As far as other publicly held offices, I volunteered for a year. I applied and was accepted for Olmsted County Human Rights Commission. I served on that for 1 year as completing someone else's term, and that is pretty much the extent of it. So elected offices, I have not participated in a full-blown election or been elected to an office. Participation with government, in my work world, I have to do that quite a bit. As a food safety trainer, I work constantly with health departments, city, county, and state, and also the FDA. So I understand the process, and in fact right now Minnesota is going through an update of their food code. And I'm learning a lot about the process of how that sausage, that law is actually made. I've learned two interesting things. One is, in Minnesota, there's always a cost analysis done. And they do a study to find out what would the impact be on a business if this law was passed. That's something that, even though there's a congressional budget office in place, I don't think our representatives actually take a look to see how the impact of a bill is going to play out for everyday people like us. So that's something that, a perspective that I hope to bring to Congress. What is going to be the real cost for real people, and let's act like the numbers really mean something.
In Fillmore County, less than 77% of the businesses have 5 or fewer employees. So we're heavily driven in our marketplace by small business economy. We don't have any real franchise restaurants. I mean, we have families that own like A&W and Subway and Dairy Queen, but all of our restaurants, it's one of the beauties coming down here. We don't have Olive Garden, Applebee's, TGI Fridays. We've got all family businesses, and I guarantee you we have a more diverse, every restaurant you go to, they have food you can't get anywhere else, which makes it one of the greatest places to dine. You can't possibly go to every place in this county in a year. But all those things considered, all these small businesses that are represented that are trying to make it, what are you going to be able to do that would help those small businesses? And I would even argue that Rochester has many of the same dynamics. Obviously, they have a lot of the corporate-owned or corporate, you've got the big box stores, you've got a lot of big corporations in there with their businesses, but you got a lot of small family-owned businesses that are trying to survive and thrive in Rochester and all throughout the district. What do you think can be done to help the small businesses?
Well, that's an important question, and I tend to shy away from what can be done to help the small businesses because, honestly, I don't favor subsidies of any kind. And I know that's not the direction you're necessarily going, but that's an important point to make. And whether it's a multinational billion-dollar company or whether it's a mom and pop, I don't think that we should be taking taxpayer dollars to subsidize any part of that business. So I want to be clear on that. What I am about is removing obstacles and making sure that it's as easy as possible for people to do what they need to do. Letting them make their own decisions. Being a very small business myself, I struggle with whether or not to add somebody on to take on more work. Is it going to be worth it? And what other costs are there besides just handing somebody a check for services rendered? It's a careful decision to be made, and the lower we can keep the external costs for those kinds of things, the better. Governments like to figure out how to take money away from businesses when they open their doors. They see it as, well, a cash cow, I don't know. But that's how they see growing their tax base, is having more businesses that generate revenue, but they see dollars, gross dollars that come in as meaningful. But what's really meaningful is what falls down to the bottom and actually hits the bottom line. We need to take out as many government siphons and filters out of the P&L process so that at the bottom line, people have enough to survive on. Whether they are a franchise organization or a corporate organization, or whether it's someone who has a bed and breakfast that's trying to have enough occupancy percentage to be able to make a go of it at the end of the year. So every business needs to have the opportunity to survive. One of the things that's become very important right now is cash flow. Banks are under a great deal of pressure. The regulators that do the inspecting and auditing of the banks are actually increasing the difficulty for my local banker to be able to open up a line of credit or give a loan to someone who's been in business for 25 years. 25 successful years, a soft year, can you float me a line of credit? And the answer is no. Well, that's not the way a banker should have to do business. We need to make sure that the regulations allow local bankers to make good decisions based on the person that they have breakfast with 3 times a month, knowing them personally and being able to say, yes, you're a good risk, I know you're good for it, let's move ahead. Let's get you that extra $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 for the next few months so that you can pay those bills and you can move your business ahead.
Is there anything else that you think the voters should hear about your what you stand for?
I'm involved in this race because I'm absolutely committed to doing what I can to make the government behave.